Hello and welcome to The Wilderness of Creativity, a platform for creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs to share their stories of survival. Today I'm talking to Lucy Williams, a passionate creative thinker and advocate for the arts. Currently serving as a senior leader and senior mental health lead, Lucy is dedicated to making a positive impact by fostering environments where her students and colleagues feel valued and empowered. She holds the esteemed Jane Featherstone Fellowship from the University of Leeds, where her research centred on art teacher research and practice, deepening her understanding of art as a transformative tool in education and community building. In this episode, we explore the impact of COVID-19 on arts education, the vital role of creativity in leadership, and how to balance professional responsibilities with personal health and well-being. We also discuss the opportunities that cross-curricular learning presents in bridging subjects and cultivating more holistic educational experiences for our children and young people. Right, let's get to the episode.
Questions we put on ourselves.
I know.
I was reading something recently. I read so many things that sometimes I have no memory of where they're from at all. And it was talking about women now have a very different experience because there are more equalities. There is not equality and it is not equitable. And it was in talking with colleagues at work, speaking about our experiences of just being women are so different. In the workplace, we have so many needs that don't translate to what a man needs. And, you know, the toilet access for periods and the risk assessments for pregnancy and, the list goes on with our like biological structure. And actually, as a child of the 70s, I was brought up in a world that was not equal at all. And the fact that the expectation of me was that maybe I would be a secretary and then I would get married and I wouldn't have to work and I would raise children because that was an aspirational kind of advance. And the difference is now that is that those sort of students that I teach and young girls, they don't have any understanding of that. What do you mean you weren't allowed to play football at school? What do you mean you weren't allowed to wear trousers at school? So those kinds of things, brilliant, we have progressed.
Yeah.
But actually what it meant was to be a woman in the workplace meant to never complain about, anything connected with your biological makeup because that would show you as being weak. And it has a knock-on effect. And so it's one of the things that I've had to catch myself in my own social conditioning when I speak to our young girls and our young women at work as students, because I don't want to perpetuate that cycle with them.
Are you still head of faculty?
No. So I'm still temporarily leading an art department and it's a job that's just supposed to transition away from me. But yeah, so I'm now a senior mental health lead. And something that I'd done in the school I'm working in for the last 4 years is I'd also led Creative Voice and Equalities. And that was not part of the job that I applied for. That kind of grew as they noticed me speaking up about things and having an experience and a knowledge and a skill set with that. And so people kind of think it's a really weird transition, but it's not. Really, it's quite a natural transition. Yeah, so I don't have to tell you about the benefits of creativity and creative pursuit for mental health because we know it, we breathe it, we absolutely 100% understand it. But yeah, it's so strange because some people said to me, "Oh, I thought you were really passionate about the arts." Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. I still am. That's not changed. And yeah, I don't think I'd imagined it like 3 years ago that I'd be doing this job though. So that's definitely something that's come. There was a lot of need after the pandemic and I was new to post in a new school in 2020. And it was a real roller coaster in many ways just because of all the changes that were happening overnight with COVID and seeing the mental and emotional impact that was having on our students. And the arts were really difficult subjects to teach during the pandemic. So yeah, and even when they're back in school with all the restrictions, singing, and play musical instruments, but you have to disinfect them after every year groups use them. You can't share materials. You can't sit in a group. You have to sit in rows. You have to be a certain amount away from each other. And all of that made those things that we know and love so very much more challenging. There were a lot of creative decisions made around how can we. And I think that arts educators are really good at reaching out to people. I'm certain teachers in other disciplines are the same, but art teachers, creative arts teachers, performing arts teachers are my world. And I think that, so I've really have transitioned into that. I'm still transitioning because there's a lot to learn. It's a government kind of post. There's government training or government funded training for it. So I've completed that, but very much I am a decision maker. And I find that whether they're difficult decisions or not, whether others agree with me or not, there is always good and evidence behind the kind of decisions that I put forward. They're not always the decisions that are followed, but I definitely have a really strong, really passionate, whole embodied experience about the positivities of the arts. And it was something that I didn't want to lose if I was going to become a senior mental health lead, and actually was really able to show that there was a link between the creative subjects and ways of thinking and positive mental health.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think when you were talking there about COVID and the restrictions that were put in place then, and the correlation with sort of mental health and the lack of arts engagement participation, for me it's a no-brainer. If you're not engaging in the arts, if you're not expressing yourself, if you're not part of a group doing something creative, then yes, our mental health suffers, because it's part and parcel of what makes us human.
Yeah.
And through all of the conversations I've been having with people, this is what it's boiling down to. It's like, is creativity a luxury or necessity? It is absolutely a necessity, but we need the luxury of time. We need the luxury of space. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got more experience in it than me, but I think we need a different kind of leader. I think we need more creative people in leadership roles, so we can put creativity where it belongs in the curriculum, which is at the heart of it.
I think it's really important that there are people that come from the creative subjects on a senior leadership team in a school. And actually in the school that I work in, the subjects that people come from is really broad. And that's really positive. When I first started to teach, the senior leadership team in that school, we were mainly PE teachers. And so there was a kind of I also thought you had to be a PE teacher to be senior leader. However, there was one senior leader there who was an art teacher. They became the head.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a real role model for me. And was a woman as well, and was quite a mentor to me actually in sort of my last kind of 6 years there, because I'd never seen or heard of an art teacher being a head teacher before. I mean, they do exist. It's not that they don't. I do know other senior leaders that work in the creative or performing arts subjects, and one of the really tricky points of that, though, is that the further up the leadership scale you go in the structure of a school, that you are being removed from subject content time or contact time. So there is, I do know of lots of people that are art, music, drama, dance teachers who have maybe touched on senior leadership and kind of come back down again, because actually they are so passionate about what they do that they want to be the voice and advocate for the arts. And although having a seat at that table is really powerful and really valuable, actually they just feel that they can do more work on the ground and that they really enjoy those interactions with young people. So I think that there is a real mix. in that. One of the schools that I work with actually, in the trust that I'm part of, the head teacher is an art teacher there. So, we're not, that unique. And Twitter, or X, if you want to put it, social media, Blue Sky, that's put me in touch with a lot of other art teachers who are senior leaders. I've recently helped an art teacher actually going for their first senior leadership role job interview. And that's come through the Arts Educators Society that I'm part of, our subject association. Just somebody reached out and said, would you just give them a little bit of time just to go through maybe what to expect? Because we should be opening doorways and helping each other up the ladder, and not being gatekeepers. I think there is no place in the arts for anyone being a gatekeeper.
What other initiatives are you involved in your school, and kind of what's the focus for you at the moment?
So I teach 15 lessons a week because we have an extended day. So it's quite a hefty teaching load for an assistant principal. And my day isn't ever really quite planned. So I have a lot of students that come to see me on an ad hoc basis when they're finding things a bit tricky, and are sent to see me. So we have a system in our school of when students are finding things really difficult, having safe or trusted adults listed that they go to. That's really supportive for them, and sometimes they just need to touch base. So in the mornings, I am on a sort of short duty in the morning. On a few days a week, I am around for these students that arrive. I might be setting up my practical lessons. Every morning, Monday, I teach period 1. So setting up those practical lessons. I do lunches and break duties. I have on call or duty principal duties each week, as well as all the senior leaders do. I am still in the throes of auditing our mental health provision at school, so using an NHS tool to do that will then inform an action plan. I don't have pastoral responsibility now. I did for the previous 4 years, but I still deal with some of those students who I was working with over those 4 years when they had needs. I organise the counselling appointments for our students, for the counsellors that come in. So we pay for additional provision for counselling for our young people, and the counsellors just generally work a morning or an afternoon. So we have a lot of them in, but they don't run a full day. Oh, one of the big things that I started when I was in this school was to run, I set up an LGBTQ student voice. And that was because, coming from the settings that you and I worked in, I was really shocked at the homophobia that I heard, and it was unchallenged, maybe sometimes unknown because of language that was being used. So in that sort of coded way, and I spoke up about that, and it started then kind of growing in that any students that were having any problems with name calling, or had maybe revealed to a member of staff that they were questioning their sexuality, or they knew their sexuality and that they knew that they were part of that community, was sent to me to talk to me. And I don't have an expertise in that. I just am a human being who believes that people can be who they want to be, and should be who they want to be, and be able to express who they are. So I run our student voice every other Friday. We have a very small group of students that come now. We had, at its height, we had about 20 that came. We've only got a handful now. And it's interesting working with them.
Is that because they've gone like key stage 4, 5, and they've moved on to the next stage of their education?
Yeah, so the first sort of cohort I had, I spoke to them all individually and said, would you like to come together and you can see who you all are, because they don't know who they all are. And they said yes. So we sort of did some activities and things, and they were in all the key stages. At the moment now, they're only in year 10. There's no one else other than students, and they've been coming to Student Voice since year 7. And I've asked them why they think that is, and they think that it's because for our younger students, they've had a different education as regards to sexuality in primary school. They feel as well that we are very vocal about the consequences of homophobia in our school, and we take it really seriously. So they think that maybe some people don't need to come, because if there are any issues, then they are dealt with immediately. And yeah, it's a strange kind of, there just aren't any other students. So, statistically, there will be more than that in the school. But for whatever reason, it's fine. They don't want to come. So this is February. So I'm coming up at the next week. So I'm doing our LGBTQ History Month assemblies, and not last year, year before, our Student Voice said. So I always run through it with them what it's going to be, and they said that, but it's always you, Miss. I was like, okay, kind of said that I'll do this. And they said, but it always comes from you. The voice doesn't come from any other members of staff. So I took their voice back to our senior leadership meeting, and we said, right, okay, we'll have a much more whole school staff voice on this. So I kind of create the bare bones of an assembly now, with information about, so the theme this month is social activism. And we just select maybe 5 or 6 people and just give some bare bones information about them. But in each house for the assembly, I will be there, but each slide will be delivered by a different member of staff, so the form tutor team and their leaders within that team as well. So
Great.
they'll have a different voice. I don't know. Someone asked me the other day, what do you do in a day? And
that's all in one day.
I've not met with Student Voice today.
Gosh. No wonder you come back and just feel so exhausted. Like the mental, I'll probably edit this out, I mean, but the mental power that takes, the emotional toll perhaps that it takes. You are doing so much for so many people. And my question, I guess, would be, where's you in all of that? Like, what do you do, Lucy, for yourself and for your own creative sort of, getting that balance?
So I belong to a partnership called Sketchbook Circle, and it's set up by 2 amazing art teachers. I think it started as someone's doctoral research, who was an art teacher. And so they organise through an art teacher network, put out who wants to join. We pay a subscription that sort of covers the organisation of it and some postage of things that are sent to us. And you have 2 sketchbook partners. And so each month, a different partner sends you a sketchbook, and you respond to each other's work. So mine are quite therapeutic. So a few years ago, when I was having a really difficult time where we were living because of some issues with both sets of neighbours, I would put it out onto these pages. So it would become like a therapy tool for me, and it would be really therapeutic. I might collage, I might just do some printing, all sorts of things. I might just write words over and over and over again over each other so no one could actually read it, just to get it out. So I have this little collection of 4. I've been doing this for 4 years. It's been going for longer, of these sketchbooks in my little office. And so I do that. I do yoga. Yoga's become a really big part of my life for this is my 6th year of yoga. So it is It's the spiritual, whole, holistic approach to yoga rather than just the exercise. That's been revolutionary for me. I have a very busy brain. I find it very, very hard to switch off most of the time. I find meditation incredibly difficult. But I like looking at stuff. So I kind of think, all right, if you just want to go outside and look at the sky, there's a meditation value in that. You don't have to be sitting, and because I do find that really hard. Um, and I actually really love creating things for other students to learn about the arts. I actually really enjoy doing that. I am forever. Yeah, or just ideas. So, I mean, as an art teacher, when we get to GCSE, we're on an exam project at the moment in year 11, and I've got 17 in my class. I've got a really small class, and they all need to be taking their project in the direction that they want to be. So I'll have 17 projects going. So I'm just like, like Mr. Tickle with all the tentacles out, just kind of like, oh, what about this? What about this? And actually constantly thinking, oh, they'd like that. Oh, what if I showed them that? And the same with my A-level students as well. So again, really small class, got 5 students, and they I just love our lessons with. And actually something that happened recently, we have a new art technician that started with us, and she's not worked in a secondary school before and has come in to support some of my students with some photography that they wanted to do. And she just said she's just blown away by the way that they can talk about their own artwork and the ideas behind it. And I was like, oh, proud teacher moment.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And we have amazing conversations in the room. I know you and I have spoken about this years ago. When students are in our rooms, they open up and talk about things that not like necessarily the really serious safeguarding stuff, although that does happen, but they just start to talk. So they just, in those moments when they're sort of just engaged in something physically, they seem to just want, be able to talk about things. And in art, there is an element that you can talk and get on with your work at the same time, particularly for those older students where you really do want an independence from them as well.
I do miss those conversations. Obviously, we've now been in primary. It's very different because they're just so excited. They just want to come in and they want to play, and the things that they want to talk to me about are like the latest toy that they've got, or the holiday that they're going on, or whatever, sibling. I do miss the conversations in GCSE and A level, and the challenge, I suppose, because you have to be really on your game. They might come to you with a book that they've read or some research or whatever, and you do have to be able to kind of unpick that with them. But I do like the change that primary's brought. It's completely different energy, a lot of play, but in a different way. I spend a lot of time on the floor.
There's been a lot of discussion over they've got education networks on X over the last few months, where in some forums, play has become a dirty word in education. And there's a massive group of educators that have got together to promote the positivities of play and to advocate for play. And I think, you're talking about younger students wanting to play, older students want to play too, and when they're in the arts, they can play because we learn through play, and we build resilience when things don't go right. And that's really important. And we boost self-esteem and we boost self-confidence, and we say, okay, just, oh gosh, that didn't go right. Right, let's, how are we going to do that then? Or they do it themselves. They just, they know themselves that it's not gone as the way that they wanted it to. And they stop and they rectify it, or they start again, or they ask for help. How can I do this in a different way?
I don't know why some people are frightened of play. Can you explain a little bit why that might be?
I think it comes out of certain aspects of the current education system. relating to testing. So relating to students having knowledge and knowing and remembering more, which is often bandied about as this is what students have to do, which is a misquote of the original quote, because the original quote was to be able to know, do, and remember more. So that's really kind of interesting to take the do out, because that's what you and I do. Often when educators are talking about what students do at school, it's that they're doing it so that they know and remember more. But actually the original quote was to know and do and remember more. And it's, for me as an art teacher and an advocate for the arts, it's really key, because it is the practical. You're taking it out the practical.
Yes, because actually in order to know something and remember something, it does help if you've done something with that information.
And then you've got the whole additional thing of embodied learning, and play is so important for younger children. But also, I remember a few years ago, I was teaching a GCSE class, and we were just experimenting with printing from different surfaces, like some bubble wrap, some textured wallpaper, some sandpaper. And the head teacher came in, this was quite a while ago, and said, "What are you doing today?" And I said, "Oh, we're just having a playing around with some, surface printing." And I said, "Oh, we don't play, we don't play in lessons."
Wow.
Okay. But of course we do. And if you say to children, we're just gonna have a play today, and we're just gonna see what it does. Actually, that's great, because they're experimenting, they're exploring, and when you see, and we're just gonna see what it does, they're gonna evaluate. So that's the whole metacognition going there. And it doesn't make them, they're not so scared about it. It's approachable when it becomes a little bit more inclusive.
Take us through the qualifications that you've done recently, because I know you've done your MPQSL. Thank you, MPQSL.
Yeah.
And obviously you would have had to do some research for that qualification. And then has that led on to other things as well?
The first one I did was the Aspiring Senior Leaders qualification. I did that a long time. I mean, we might have been working together when I'd done that. And that was one that had an internship. So you went to a school that was like the polar opposite of yours, and it was 4 local authorities that were together. So I went to a primary school in a really affluent area that had really high scores coming out of that in year 6. And one of the really interesting things that they did is every child was a musician. So in that school, they had every child as a musician. And then to remember now that the MPQSL, there were the network days where you had your training, and then you had like an action research project. So it had to be something that was taken from the school improvement plan that you could show actionable improvement for. I started mine, and then I was actually asked to change it because there was a greater need in the school, and it was connected with racism. So I was asked to do. I'd done some things about who are we already, and so I was asked to sort of to take that forward, that work. So we changed the assembly program. We had teachers talking about heroes of theirs from different parts of the globe. We had teachers talking about their upbringing, where they went to school, how things were different for them. That school was a white British, really large percentage school, but its demographic had been changing, and maybe things hadn't kind of kept up with that. And so there was some big change that we did. I started an equalities group with students so that they could tell us what they wanted. And then we worked on actioning those. And that was my project there. I'm not sure if it's from there that I kind of got into really being vocal about the anti-racist work. in education and also in the arts. So with the NSEAD, I was part of their, I think it might have been in 2020, it was a call out for any teachers to be part of an anti-racist education art educators group. And that was amazing. It was so insightful to listen and learn from people that had been doing that work for decades. They had, then what happened as a result of that group, collaboratively, there was an anti-racist checklist created for art educators and also for arts publishing. And that translates itself actually into any kind of subject, really. So I've given it to other subject leads to say, in the work I'm doing at the School for Equalities, is that have a look at this. And if you take out art, does it apply if you put in geography or history or what have you? So that there as well. And then the senior mental health lead qualification that I did is a 2-day face-to-face. And I did that with Anna Freud. So it's a really intense, like a 9 till 5 day. And as part of that, you have to share, there's a confidentiality in the room. You have to share some of the times where you've actioned these things, or you could see that they would be actioned within your school. So it's quite emotionally draining doing that, but also really great to hear about all the work that people do, which is really just so uplifting. And then through my connection with art teacher networks and the NSEAD, I applied to do the art teachers. It was called Plan, Prepare, I think it was Provide, it was PPP, which was a residential at Leeds University. I think I started that maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and went in the summer when there's less, for secondary school teachers, perhaps less classes to teach. And was really lucky to get a place, even being a teacher working in London. And again, it's just, best CPD ever is just get subject people together, because you just learn from each other. But it was really brilliant. In Leeds, they have the School of Fine Art and Art History together. So as a faculty, having those two things together, there's a real big drive for art history, because it's a bit of a subject that's really been hit heavy over the last 10 years or so. And as a result of that, I was eligible to apply for a fellowship at Leeds University. So Jane Featherstone, the film director, has a fellowship with Leeds to complete the postgrad in teacher research and practice. So it's only for art teachers. And there are little videos that are made of us kind of explaining to Jane Featherstone what we're doing and how her funding has enabled us to do research. And that was really an amazing experience. It was so hard. And there were many moments where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But actually you did it. It was such a sense of achievement. I had an amazing tutor. Well, 2 tutors actually. They were both amazing. And weekends went by the wayside because I couldn't focus on it during the week at all.
No, because you've got to have the brain space, and when you're working full time and doing all of the things that you're doing, you need to have that. You need to carve out that space, don't you, in the time? And I think something that really strikes me, Lucy, is that you are so committed to driving change, advocating, and also the CPD opportunities that you've found and that have come as a result of other things that you're going on, the collaboration. And I think just coming together and sharing good practice and talking about challenges that you're facing and leaning into that research that's available, like you're absolutely living and breathing the work that you're doing at the moment.
Thank you. It's really nice of you to say. I think I'm just doing the best I can but also trying to make sure I enjoy what I do. So there are things that I know I don't enjoy doing. So, if I've got to eat that frog and do it, I'll do it. But it's to make the teaching is really hard, and people that don't work in schools might, unless they live with someone that does, might not really understand that the multitude of decisions and things that you're doing in, every day, and the information that you hold in your brain. So, there's a lot of students out there that are really struggling with lots of different things that we can't control, but it's really heartbreaking, and holding all of that inside can be really tricky too. Um, I think that I've always loved learning, and, where best to be if you love learning and you can't afford to be a perpetual student, but, be a teacher instead, because teachers are continually learning. It just changes all of the time. And I learn from the young people that I work with, and, it's such joy in that. And it's so enriching having just be able to have conversations with young people about what they're doing, their hopes, the things that they want to do, the things that they don't know are out there, because their world isn't that big yet. And it's and also I think that sometimes I'm really honest about who I am and where I come from. And students often look at me and they don't think that. They think that because they know that teachers have been to university, they think, you just went to university. Well, yeah, I did. And I am so privileged that I went at a time where I got a grant to go, because that's really hard for them now, is to face that debt. So I've been having conversations with students this week that I teach in the sixth form, and just saying, well, are there any apprenticeship routes out there for you to get a degree? It's not university isn't the only route. And I taught a student years ago who was so good at art. She was amazing and got a really high grade for her A-level arts. I was like, why don't you go to art college? She's like, nope, not doing it. Don't want the debt. Nope. I'm really interested in computing, and I'm really interested in art, and I'm going to go down computing, and I've got an apprenticeship, and they're going to pay for my degree. And I was like, okay, I can't argue with that, can I?
The perception that education is broken comes across very loudly. Do you think it's broken?
I think there are aspects of it that need addressing really quickly. So there are, I was reading something today. I actually wrote it down for something else. Is that there's a recent document out in the Campaign for the Arts, and it says that looking at data from 2009 to 10 compared to 2022 to 3, the number of arts entries for GCSE was down by 47%. So within sort of that 12-year period, it's nearly half the amount of children are doing arts-based GCSEs. There's 27% less teachers in the data they were looking at for 2023 across the arts subjects combined. And also the hours that are taught have changed. And I think that's something maybe where there's a little bit that needs tweaking. So they have 23% less across an academic year lessons now than they did in 2011 to 12. So I think that's there. I mean, my school is great because we have art, drama, music. We have design technology, and it's only design technology is a double lesson, and it's taught on a carousel. I hear over and over again from colleagues in science and from history and geography that the content that they have to deliver is beyond the hours that they have on a timetable. And we have we have a pretty good amount of time with our students for GCSEs because we have this slightly extended day. So we're not trying to cram it in 2.5 hours a week. We've got a little bit longer than that. And it would, the EBAC when it came out was really, really upsetting for lots of students. I know the reasoning behind it. In fact, it was the same choices that I had when I was at school in the 1980s. So, it wasn't that it was different. I had to choose a language. I had to choose a humanities. We had to do English, maths and science. I think the difference now is that science is a double. So it takes up another GCSE choice. Progress 8 has narrowed for some schools. So they will only deliver 8 GCSEs, so they get more lesson time for it. I think there's lots of things that have contributed to it. I think rewriting of some of the national curriculums for Key Stage 3. I don't know so much about Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 1 for those national curriculums, but it sort of tried to centre for art, particularly as a subject. It tried to centre. The criticism of it is that it tried to centre a kind of a European bias, perhaps with that, and looking at great masters. It was that kind of the way that it's read, because the national curriculum for art is very short. So when colleagues of mine in other subjects, where we were looking at the national curriculums in a senior leader meeting to make sure that people that aren't part of those subjects know those subjects, someone was turning around like, where's the rest of it? Because it's just that one side, because you can't dictate what they have to learn about for the practitioners, the artists. You've got the whole of humankind from the beginning of the world and to today across the globe to choose from. So, and that's really important, because when you choose somebody, you are rejecting something else. So making those choices about curriculum are really important. And if your teachers don't have knowledge, that becomes a really narrow curriculum. And if your teachers have been taught a Eurocentric curriculum themselves, they may then perpetuate and deliver that Eurocentric. So you don't get a broad kind of spectrum of those practitioners. And maybe the students don't see themselves in the curriculum. I think that's the other part of it as well, that can be really different in some schools. I am really fortunate because the school I work in is pro the arts. And it's just that our students' home lives are not seeing the value all of the time. We do a lot of work for options evening. I collated an Excel spreadsheet of, I think it was over 260 jobs where you would need art in some way, printed it out, and it kind of like folds across into this massive scroll. Where it's like, pick it up, have a look at a job. There's loads of jobs in the arts. The creative industries are huge. We did work on that when we were working together.
We did. We did that PowerPoint presentation. But I think beyond that, though, Lucy, is like, even if you don't want to go into the creative arts, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a detective, whatever it is that you want to do, you are going to have to think creatively, solve problems, work with teams of people, be able to look at them in the eye, read body language, read tone of voice, interpret all of these different things and have something to say.
I went to this amazing art. It was an art or creative arts sort of training day. It was held at the Museum of Childhood in Bethnal Green. And they had the chief surgeon from the Royal College of Surgeons there talking about how they want young people coming through university into them who are creative, who are dexterous, who can really use their hands, because actually that dexterity in their cohorts, academically, they're all there, they've got it, but the practical natures were missing. So they'd done this really creative thing, and they'd employed a magician. And the magician was there, and what he was essentially teaching these students in the Royal College of Surgeons was he was teaching them to. He was looking at sleight of hand, so that they were building up the muscles in their fingers, but also about how to communicate with people and actually to distract them, which is part of that bedside manner. Is that what are they focusing on, because that's really going to make them upset and stressed. So actually, let's not let's lie to them or anything, but let's reframe that in some way. And I just thought that it's one of the standout things that I've done in the last 10 years, was because it was so empowering to hear someone from that institution say, no, we want the students that have done drama, we want the students that can play an instrument, we want the ones that can sing, we want the ones that can use their hands and make, because all of that will bring a team of people together that's really rounded. And that was really, it was so empowering to hear that from somewhere like that, because I thought that wasn't the case. So I still deliver an assembly in just before the options process every year on creative pathways. That's one of the things that you're referring to. And I have, and I say you have to be creative. If you're looking at modern languages, language is so creative. If you're a scientist, you've got to be creative. Otherwise, how can you figure out these new things that are going to be invented, or these experiments, or the research? Computer programmers are actually really creative. So it appears in pretty much every aspect of a school, and it's one of the skills for the 21st century: creativity, collaboration, communication, and also that kind of analytical reasoning as well. And they get that all the time from drama and music and dance and art. But they do it and they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah. But this is the thing, isn't it? Inspectors, they want to see the mechanics of everything. And if they can't see the mechanics, then there's no benefit to it. But so much of what we do is intangible, isn't it?
It is, but if you can see it. So actually,
You can see it if you know
So
what
if
you're looking
there,
for.
yeah, exactly. And I was doing some research recently on metacognition in the art room specifically. And it's all about, are they evaluating? Where's their evaluation? They don't need to evaluate. When I hold their work up and they go, or they smile and they nod, that's the metacognition. They've done it within a millisecond because they've made a decision about their learning and what they produced. And actually, really quickly, they've thought, yeah, okay, that's fine. Or, oh, that looks different from a distance. Or, that's not right. Okay, I've got to change that and I've got to do this. And it happens really quickly. And I don't need them to write an evaluation for that to be a powerful piece of learning. So I think that you were saying it is, you do need to know what you're looking for, and it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look the same in PE. It doesn't look the same maybe in a science practical, and it doesn't look the same maybe in an English lesson where they're watching theatre. It's different, and I think that is. Maybe that's the part that's molded, is that the understanding that the disciplines are different, have different needs, produce different things, has been wheedled out a bit over time. How do you know they know? How have you tested them? How do you know? And also I think the students need to know that the arts are theirs. It belongs to them. If the arts are your mirror of social values, then it absolutely has to belong to our young people, and they have to be empowered to know that they can enter spaces, that they can watch, they can see, they can join in. And you don't have to join in to enjoy drama. You can enjoy watching it. You can enjoy all the organisation that goes on in the background, and the same with music, and the same with the arts as well. There are loads of people that work in the art world who are not artists. They just love being around art, and they love the whole everything it brings intrinsically, to society in whatever shape or form that might be.
You were one of the best role models I think I've had as a teacher, because yes, you might be an art teacher, but you understand drama and dance and music and the arts as a kind of a collective, and you've also got that sort of a capacity as well to appreciate all of the other subjects and see how they're all linked as well. And I think we get stuck in our own subject sometimes, and we think very selfishly, but if we need to think more about the bigger picture, do you think?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that came out of this aspiring senior leaders course that I did quite a long time ago, before the MPQs existed, and it was one of the projects that came out of it. You might remember were cross-curricular working parties, and I don't know where I got it from. But the best thing is start small, bite-sized chunks, and build on it. Then you can scale up, and I think we started by having a cross-curricular lesson for 360 children in the hall for a live was a piece of music at the Royal Albert Hall, and I think it was connected to water. So we had them all in there, and we had a sociology teacher do 10 minutes on the sewage system that Bazalgette created. We did, there was all sorts of things. That we had science, humanities, and the arts as well involved. And we did a few of those. We did one for World Toilet Day. Maybe that was the water system. Maybe that was Bazalgette World Toilet Day. But it was about, we were really fortunate in that school because we were a really big building and we had lots of spaces. That's the thing that lots of schools don't have, actually. I've come to realize that they don't have those big spaces. So bringing students together like that can be a little bit more challenging. But I think that learning doesn't have to take place in the classroom. Learning is learning. Doesn't matter how or where you're doing it, it's learning. I want to advocate for the arts. I want to advocate for that embodied experience. And the cross-curricular, I think, is really important. So, I still run the Horniman trip.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I've done that at my school now for 3 or 4 years, I think. Yeah, that's still cross-curricular. We've got all the subjects involved. And it just brings power to it. It's really time-consuming to take children out for the day. It takes a lot of manpower that costs. And, if you're going to do it, go large. Just, and make sure that everyone's involved.
So much of what we did has informed my approach, my practice. I feel like I'm on a different trajectory now as well. I'm not sure how long or I am going to stay in primary. If it's something that I want to go a little bit further, because I don't take anyone out for trips at the moment. But instead, if I can't take them out, I will bring people in. And I think that's the other alternative, isn't it? It's if you can't take children out and experience something, then bring professionals in.
And if you're going to take children out, so the theatre is a big one. I work with our drama teacher on this, is that she said, you've got this organisation and they're coming, but they're really expensive. And I was like, well, what will they do for the time they come in? So, well, I've got a really small GCSE group. I said, that's a lot of money per head. What if you speak to English? What if they have, they all watch the play, or the whole of 1 year group? Can they do a year 9 and a year 10? Can they...
And use it to inspire year 9s coming up to do GCSE.
And then, you work it out and it's only £3 a head, opposed to a theatre ticket, which, if you're really lucky, it might be £10 or £15 a head. You've not got your teachers out of school. You're using the teachers, and the senior leaders are supporting when they're not teaching. So you've got your supervision there. And that was always the thing we did, is like, let's bring them in and have those really enriching experiences.
Community building, building those partnerships, creative partnerships with organisations. I think that really needs to be as well harnessed a bit more. How can businesses and charities and arts organisations work with and contribute to what's going on in their local schools, in their communities?
And I think the other thing as well is that having, like you, this is the other thing that we've got, is that we worked in the arts industry before we trained to teach. So we bring a different level with us to teaching, is knowing really what's out there, but also knowing that it can't be just their need, whatever that organisation is. You are a school. There is a need because, you are a school, you are a business, you have a need. And, they might want to come in and do this to this group. Well, actually, it's not going to work with them. What we really need is we need this. But so often arts organisations have a really sort of tight remit because of their funding, which, is fine. But I think that the understanding of how a school works, I get so many offers for trips at sort of 10 days notice. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't get the paperwork and everything done in that short period of time, if it's for a larger group. And it's that there is a disconnect there sometimes between understanding the functionality of what we have to do to take them out on a trip Which is another reason why if you're going to take them out, go large, take the whole year group.
It's really, really tricky.
And I think it's about making those connections, because once you've got a link with somebody in one of those organisations, as long as they don't change job, you can say, we were trying to book for students to go to a large gallery, and the booking system would only let us book 40 at a time. And I was like, but there's about 27 in each class. So how does that work? But this is a school's booking, but you've got 40. Where does anyone have a class of 40? So I said, this is what I need. No, I don't need you to do that. We're going to self-direct. They've got their booklets. They're going to be fine. All our teachers are with them. We just need to come in, leave our bags. We need a space for lunch, and we need to be able to come back and get our bags at a certain time to get our train. And, we don't, not rudely, we don't need you for anything else, because you have no idea how much just walking around this place is going to blow their students' minds and make it a really memorable experience. If you were to come back another time or with an older group, absolutely, we would love to engage in part of your education program. But our students just are so excited to be here that they just need to see it. That's what they need to do for their first visit.
I thought we'd finish with the You Got This cards.
Oh,
so
give us a card.
Well,
what you got?
Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
I'm just going to take the top card. It's like that magician you were talking about. I love that. It says, it's okay to feel however you feel.
There you go. That's okay.
It's okay to feel however you feel.
That is one of my catchphrases, actually. That's okay.
Is it?
It is. Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay. That's okay. You're allowed to feel angry. That's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
That's
really
relevant.
Mm.